Home stretch.
So I like put that on. Oh, okay. So that's.
I haven't checked data that includes that.
I looked through.
They said that, I guess, they said that, I mean, it'd be good if you did, I mean, so I didn't, I mean, you asked them to hire you, and I guess they agreed, but then they, like, what Zucker said is that they've been hounding you for months to fill out something to be cleared, and you didn't do any of it, and they'd already paid you $750 for the year, so they couldn't use you again until you did the tuberculosis. We've all done that, we're in CBS.
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know. Oh, no, it's just, I mean, let me give you the check. Okay.
And also the thing is I was 3 years ago to 2004, and then I went from
Is everyone good for the speech drop? Lowercase e, lowercase b, capital W, 4, capital D, capital N.
Can you do that again?
Yeah. Lowercase e, lowercase b, capital W, 4, capital D, capital N.
What was the last letter?
N.
Capital or lowercase?
Capital. Is everyone good? Am I slow? No, I have letters.
Oh yeah, I'm asking, do you know how to clone it? Like, is it?
Oh, tap this side of it. And then I think there's a mover. And then if you click the consonants. No clicker?
I don't have any.
Is everyone good? Yes. Advantage orders human rights, national living wages for all workers, a critical receiving commits multiple international treaties, anything less maintains the perception of the U.S. Carnegie Slow serving exemptions with those critical reason of the UHR. Everyone has the right to innovation, insurance, and living life. highest tower, organization of every much which provides all workers with fair wages without the seeking of any kind of moving along fair living wage, protect workers of the wage data from a minimum national legal standards to meet needs. U.S. adoption is critical to global norm setting. You lose states published and residential living wage in the U.S. applies accountability policies such as global use of these issues promise to global scrutiny, use of living wage parallel to global national legal standards after the whole transnational corporation accountable as they move around the globe. American Federation of Wage Rights restores human rights leadership to who at all nine protect rights appropriate wages, links directly first less than rights and partners of the UN obligation to each other legally binding charter necessary to elaborate the content of rights model on domestic standards of the U.S. policy to the implementation of economic rights crucial on the international state stalls. Call again converging institutional crisis code 20 U.S. promoting rights form basis systems and more instances for evaluation of governance power attacks on all world problems of hearts and rights values leadership leaders returning devastation in light of COVID helping refugees leadership emergency services more urgent. Thus the plan unites also require that workers receive a living wage standard inconsistency which on utilitarianism one pain of pleasure reasons for action and intrinsically legal abusive interest to feel and also there are opportunities for action couldn't say some reason not to hang on so not possible that someone never go to do things could solve but when it's withdrawn with also doing no judgment no judgment you could overrule 32 phenomenal and introspection is true and the only reliable process for beliefs and also 20 feelings when possible we know pleasure kind of not knowing no way telling to reject the same rational argument and power also burns to discuss my opinion is not no reason thing no such okay this part of the part I do this 3 actors by governance must be useful because they do not have intentions of a constantly deal with different ways different agents and different obligations which takes out their compromise because they're empirically denied for no time for distinction for states and choosing to base itself and even on 743 too small for seeing consequences of responsibility of shooting through the moral significance consideration very weighty to say actually the global perspective of the undertaking cannot have dependent on producing distinction of governance especially relationship procedures and has no reason to turn result of like individuals 5 degrees of wrongness making a promise to take a 5% to the hospital is worse than breaking a promise to make someone for lunch hijacks their intuitions or never separate from must take some unjustified assumptions at certain points 6 extension at waste infinite a fourth filing process of disability of people and the return at waste reverse a long term to office flights everyone's self-determination 7 death to officer 3 is contributing to the end goal of ethics impossible and reject Kant NC would end every 3 winning cases for today. I think for the usual is difficult now that it's false. Now advantage is systemic class wage sanitation includes primary age workers who enter legally before which makes secular sanitation in level ranges 22 recording the point which apparently some more people come excluded from the other market circles and understand 32 police department overbeen rising no advocacy to pursue education care for family which with low infrastructure to leave starting wages even when 100 with an investigative constrained wages plus so hard slow parts of secular sanitation is now the plan bolsters participation versus sanitation 1 web hardly cost increase capital plus non-efficient new tech that expands participation to 16 check with slowdown and participation 2.8 trillion the experts to start actually depends on between 2% of previous was that rising wages for incentive for assessing competition with labor cheap business harder than worker but higher wages reduce capital logic for semester raise margin measure and increase the wages and converted into maximum production regime market hard at maximum production regime 2 efficiency wages rest wasting fears of unemployment motivate workers and do hard 19 wage hikes increase what to equals and what to lose. Hardest way to lose and the covering more about because working the workers were harder than harder even harder for getting hard extend more hours because the original favor is statistically proven and offsets the need for prior prices to Loyola and election went on increasing wage reduces particular test such as equals and median test median test 8.2% of West results from that increasing work after assets once increasing competition insufficient wages make secular sanitation inevitable way and for students for and primary reason for low cost so almost in cost of insufficient waste sanitation inequality following insufficient so hard to be indicative of insufficient problem is not the problem or almost so recovery is to second wage and extinction often hammers from the hard declining credit coupled with institutions secular sanitation increasing possibility nationalism and collaboration will compare head will become unavailable constraints of emergency to world war III economic constraints and military Russia already trying to have this ran as is one multi for details and changes to greater uncertainty about how to have heightened potential for escalation friends and wars as always on edge and turning worst case the political was put in hazardous not supremacy and worsening relation to competition will be defined company non programs such as their weapons Nazi actors that's about multipolar worlds inequality is surging and new planets key to solve chapter 22 swelling and 40 compared to COVID and Ukraine record and pushing working living status of 80% to the cost of living crisis it's the worst they've ever faced 100% errors the race saved 52% of global living wage was healthy equality Bruce property equal standard of living disparity disparities and sexual and racial aging inequality essential achieving equality hunger good well-being and reduced inequality statistics proven equality is primarily caused by the wages per sheet 14 poverty spending kind of living wage and 40% wage inequality for 3 tenths women for the 75% increase in equality due to decline in wages and fracture and inequality extension rate in June 21 Inequality was inequality was institutional quality such as private health, public science and other experts such as public science actually part of it institutions like inequality legally capture us. Investment in stress is important for public assess such as society to lower inequality should work in stress on resources space as first poor, voluntary and society as well as the isolation below to increase social inequality and decrease poverty public politicians are less formative and more conflictual ontology and epistemology secondary to kind of reps are tied to the consequences of service to papers on ontological like this. Elitism sex and for those in struggle what is part of the state to present itself what is the safety policy know from something about obvious and help solving language money from growth is good and sustainable souls every night we're right 25 million people published about middle none happen to check the first risk have allocates which is another solid use we always go more find more and better use economic setting but consumption is using getting more from less regular cap solves every terminal impact and prediction is statutes, but also 21 anti-competition is also supporting capitalism and other houses with belongs to the solution to have movement important is not we should turn against system because the health care system not here to happen under any alternative have drive positive outcomes like existing the most higher college knowledge lower property more happiness reduce more higher HR reduce resistance to homophobia higher than 45 hospitals that we have become more regular conversation new deficit less couple of rewards more problems food insecurity pushing ill health credit card ill health I have 40 seconds left sorry I know this was not disclosed but I guess the plan is critical to achieve all 17 SDGs wrong version of the one I see but you would go look up and another language to see some SDGs which is most important. In addition, working on one of poverty increase, purchasing power project and poverty losing one agency more teaching wage, order to produce work for all 10 reducing poverty, choosing how to use insufficient literacy, living food, 3 health, meet needs of long hours of work, 1 hard long hours of work, US support is a critical internal link of this one SDGs for US to higher average and poverty single one need, renew leadership good, equity for making over advancing SDGs for those value against poverty nationalized extinction, sort of and penetrating SDGs cascade through articles with copy by machine US tangents, sort of like the gold, prison food, national systems have had to find how machine water versus for an extinction. Sorry, I'm sending that out. I'm gonna. Do you want it separately or do you want me to just add it?
I want to separate.
Okay. And then I have to. Do you want to wait for it?
Yeah.
Let me just put it in. Okay, I'm good.
Okay. I want to start. I vote F.
Why don't we think it's a good idea?
Okay. What does it mean for something to be a good idea?
Well, under our interpretation, we think that the judge should endorse whatever policy is best for minimizing pain and maximizing pleasure, and we think the one is equals that.
Okay. I want to talk about the right evidence. What do you think is the warrant that you've
Well,
highlighted?
2 things. One, it says that fear-mongering is empirically disproven. So things like peak oil, the population bomb never happened. 2, it says capitalism solves every warrant listed in your evidence. It allocates
Okay.
resources to their most valuable use, and it says
How
we
does
can
it
find
allocate
ways.
resources to their most valuable use?
Well, price allocation, obviously, and if you let me finish, it also says we can invent ways to grow more, we can find more resources, and that allows us to subvert shortages.
Why?
It also says consumption is decreasing.
Okay. That's fine. I guess ontology and epistemology secondary to the plan. I guess what's the warrant in this evidence?
Well, 2 things. One is yes, maybe the plan, some things about the plan are imperfect, but that is not a reason for why we should endorse nuclear extinction. Even if you win, 1% of the plan might not be good. If it results in a net better world, we think that is sufficient. 2, this card says that consequences are tied to representation. So if we win the plan, has good effects, it justifies the way we have represented anything. 3rd is it also says that problem-solving bad is a terrible model of debate because it means that we never address the crisis that millions are
Right.
affected.
I guess I want to talk about the SDGs scenario. What do you think is the terminal impact of SDGs?
Extinction.
Okay, how do we get there?
Our evidence says things like cyber attacks, data fraud, biodiversity collapse, all of those.
Okay,
bugs.
so then how come U.S. leadership in SDGs is able to resolve that?
Well, one is the SDGs themselves are goals that increase state stability, right? It makes global cooperation more
So
likely.
how does the plan resolve SDGs?
Well, we've read evidence that says the quote most important condition for achieving SDGs is the right to a living wage, and the plan does that. I can go through the specific warrants
So
about
why
why
is the right to
specifically
living wage
necessary.
the most important?
Well, one, we've read evidence saying it
Okay,
is,
you've
and
read
2,
evidence that says it is, but I want
Yes.
to know why.
Yeah, 2, our evidence says that absent a living wage, we cannot achieve any of these goals. For example, things like no poverty, increasing purchasing power is necessary to solve that. Things like gender equality, structurally, and racial equality. Structurally, women are paid less in the workforce. So these are all things that a living wage is necessary to address.
Okay, I guess the Oppenheimer evidence, why does U.S. economic decline cause conflict? What conflicts do you think will happen?
3 separate scenarios. First, transition wars. 2, this card says multipolarity is generally bad because when there is no stable hegemon to ensure global peace and deter conflict, states are so suspicious of each other and they're always thinking offensively that it makes accidental conflict far, far, far more likely. 3, it says that absent American security guarantees, terrorism and proliferation become grandparents.
Okay, that's fine then. I'll send the doc. The order is NCAC, or one off, and then case.
Is case just all on one?
No, cases, framework, IHL, econ.
Sorry,
And
give
then
me a second to
the
label my
preamps.
You said framework is international language.
Yes.
It's one-off framework advantage too.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, this one has 4 off?
Wait, what?
I think you said the quarters off.
Did I? My bad. Oh wait, I still have the quarters file. There you go.
So it's this one has 2. This is run 5.
Wait, what?
Wait, hold on, that's not-
the file.
Wait, I don't know. Okay, sorry. Wait, I swear this is the one I opened. This is, okay, my bad.
Okay. Is anybody not ready?
Oh wait, sorry, let me.
Ethics must be an a priori, first empirical uncertainty, the mere possibility of living in the matrix, being seen by an evil demon, man's rejecting the empirical world space for ethics in Norm 24. Naturally, believing when I see the lady beginning to run as a babe, there's a possibility I run as I believe in regard for this, I believe the cards, I have demon deceive me in my beliefs about the external world, ensuring my beliefs are coherent, implies no wake, explains why we hold common beliefs. Second, moral truth, quality of being corrupted, beliefs we cannot use how people are to determine how they should be, Depontic 16. Connection between moral content in a way which covers truth through reason alone, and a priori which is moral while applying to all cannot be discovered through experience, cannot learn how one should from how people do. Practical reason results these quants, it provides an inescapable starting point to derive moral judgment, Thelma 06. Requirements depend on external authority is capable. Why should obey government demands reason? Does any authority depends on reasons? We ask why ask for reasons. Here's something not ask why demand a reason because these authority question cannot escape. Requirement to act for reasons that it is any requirements at all others derive since there be reasons to obey them. Only use of region make an action and action, otherwise it has no moral worth. Course Code 19. Suppose you're starving when I learn this and attack by muscle doesn't cause me to make a movement I would have given you assignments. No one claiming this has out value act must be done with intention to count as an act. No one can have different motives for carrying out intention. My gift sandwich to alleviate hunger. Believe you will pay or because I hope you will choke. Only get to the intention when description of action on which agent values for its own sake. From agency comes freedom as use of choice is free. Humans are agents with the ability to pursue ends that warrants a negative right to property as a necessary requirement for pursuit of all ends. Ripstein 9. To set an end, you must take yourself to have power to achieve it. Entitled to use means to suppose enable you to achieve property is right to have a thing. Set and pursue ends, position and use to have position provided entitled to control things. Exclude others from wrong to someone in participants against it. Deprived means to set and pursue ends limits freedom even if no inclination to pursue those ends. Deprived ability to be who determines the thing used have right if not require consistent of anyone else. Therefore, the value criterion is consistent with property rights. Corporations have a right to money they've earned from voluntary exchanges, which justifies using it as they see fit. Wage increases violate that right. Armament 14. Legitimately acquired wealth any obtained in voluntary non-fraudulent trade. Owners have property right to expense safe. Investor giveaways they choose value of resources driven by consumers, buyers. Any governmental expropriation of that wealth violates property rights is wrong. Argument income expropriation is justified since beneficiaries benefit nonsense. Thief who gives away. Soul and loot is still a thief. It's not treating people as mere means either. Hubbard 23. At first seems a blind principle, the wage might provide ways for raising the wage of living level the employee freely chooses to enter into employment knowing will not be living wage and advancement is possible, difficult to argue violates cost principles case. First argument they make, Nagel, is off fallacy, is obvious because they can explain that we do value pleasure, not that we ought to value pleasure. Course Code implicates this because those, quote, involuntary responses are not morally relevant because they don't involve agency. Phenomenal introspection, animals can introspect too. It proves the fallacy of origin. Just because it is necessary for survival does not equate to goodness. Now, the no intent force extinction stuff, judges as policymakers have intentions. Even if we don't know why individual states take actions, we can determine based on the intrinsic maximum of the action, i.e. the living wage is inherently coercive. Different agents have no a priori distinction, which means they must win empiricism. Yes, intent force extinction, Enoch has highlighted Shreds and implicated by our culpability arguments. There's no reason states' actions need to have a global perspective. 4 dissats. First, culpability DA. Go with 81. Principle of intervening action responsible to review their degree of some action, the more proximate cause and locate was still responsible for rights. Opponents were responsible for refusals, not cause responsible for death rather than terrorists or responsible. Second, obligations DA. OCSA 95. If it's real, with obligated, nothing ever decided on. Third, motivation dissat. Holding agents accountable for consequences. External, their will, voice, reason, act ethically because they know they would be punished for incident intent. Fourth, escapability dissat. Agents can claim they produced wrong to evade punishment. NC solves that living actions are intrinsically right or wrong rather than contingently so. Intuitions goes our way. We intrinsically feel like things like watching somebody shower without their knowledge is wrong, even if they don't know and it causes net pleasure to the weirdo. Intuitions can be wrong and assumes empiricism. Some people have racist intuitions, which means that intuitions are obviously not right. Deontology explains necessary enablers, 996. Deontology is committed to substitutability, where someone who's interested in comparison necessary enablers not ad hoc. One way to independently from an argument. Extinction always is consequential argument assumes we're culpable for it. Death has no impact under Kant. It's morally neutral. Ethics is what we should do while we are alive. The death argument is fallacy of origin. We haven't said anything about ontology, and we didn't read Calcondites. They must explain what a Calcondite is, but it doesn't link to us because our theory is derived from the maxim. Now, IHL. No solvency nor impact violations are never in the U.S. and globally otherwise toothless. Under no scenario, any grand global under ILA norms, there's no force to enforce ILA compliance in the hands of countries themselves. There's no modern choice compliance. ILA would bear recently and waiting by invasion. Investment in international law upholds the key systems that generate international poverty and imperialism. IKTO 14. International law was used by the West just as slavery, colonialism, expansionism, international laws, predatory and militarism, the plunder, subordination of the third world by the West in the modern period. International laws predominantly used to protect, and promote the interests of Westerners, multinational businesses, third world states, as sovereign entities were surrendered to colonial overlords, colonial rulers, regarding native conditions uncivilized and requiring improvements in third world states. Again, we pause the world economy because it is manipulates the principles of the sovereign show that international laws, global law made by the Westerners in order to control the third world. International economic law underdeveloped the third world states did not have a role to play in shaping the more powerful transnational bodies imposed free market structures on developing systems. They allowed peripheral states and involuntary agreements to force them to lower their protective barriers, thereby preventing nations from developing comparative advantage. Was expanding traditions, imposing independence and interdependence, international laws and opportunities to nurture neo-colonial inequality and domination of the third world. Westerners were able to come out of third world countries back and they become the subject of international law. Westerners use international law to control economic relations. Poor countries are constantly opposing their economies remain hugely dependent on Westerners. International law is the key instrument that perpetuates sorts of inequality between global north and global south. Independently, Trump dumps the impact because he tried to withdraw from our commitments, but we didn't see their impacts. Now, econ. Epistemic commitment ends growth assumes a neoclassic economic paradigm, blocking catastrophic ecological collapse. Washington 21. 10 of us growth is growth is always good. Interesting is reviews of examiners growth environmental damage concern always using unequal ways ecosystems search the nature has no intrinsic value. Questions of possible growth forever is hardly answered. Seen as fantasy for societal ills, free trade, competitiveness, productivity, or sustainable development. Unless change to diminish well-being will be blamed on scarcity, then advocate increased growth as spiral where increased growth worsens the environmental crisis. This comes from an effective drive towards violence and to control things. Movement 24. Predators was on everywhere in the living as raw material and devouring production, capturing all living refers into reason about religion status. Combined struggle to hold on, shift, impoverishment, willed it against them onto others already denuded of existence, of greater brutality, desire for violence. Earth reach limits, bodies exist only in relation to the biosphere, depletion of natural resources support, existence manifests in water, food, ocean acidification, rising water, destruction of ecosystems, endorse ecocentrism, of frame and value of politics, which recognizes the earth as a shared home and is stepped towards degrowing. Washington 21. Solution to the gender world ethics only possible to modernism, the world of resource generation, the world we find value in nature, society needs to return to ecosystem, adopt an earth ethics, recognize the earth for all beings, including but not only humans. The Athens of its worldview and the negative can engage in an alternative worldview or often constantly suggest occasionally legit. Corsgar says, why we do something determines moral reverence, which means it should cross by the reason they choose to do it are advocacies we must consider, which fosters the testing of core principles necessary to prevent dogmas. And what Washington says is entrenched by new classical economics. A consensus of scholarly literature agrees peace is served by economic pessimism, downturns reinforce deterrence, post in 20. Wars with you would cause a military common reasons pessimism, even once pessimism negotiate odds go down, literature confirm reasons economic economy shrinking, give reason to be pessimistic about military might. The effect will dampen conflict for years. People want evidence their governments protect them, one will be less inclined to investors, less trade mean friction, and reducing intensity of rivalries, focus on the domestic soothe fears. Risk of escalation is too great. COVID, Ukraine, 08, dot-com bubble in 1979 and 1990, energy crisis, dump the impacts. There's no reason that's different. The F cannot change inequality because it can't solve poverty in the global south. There will be a billion people living precarity worldwide. They do nothing to solve that, which makes it lead to capture, institutional failure, and economic collapse inevitable. Second, they can't solve poverty for non-workers, people with disabilities, children, the unemployed, and the elderly, burning 18. Wage is not a good way to eliminate poverty. People who work and live alone or non-poverty. What makes workers alone in poverty, non-worker, family, children, disability, unemployed, elderly, the way below poverty countries get that wage, ensuring non-worker populations receive income, pensions, benefits, nothing else gets to drop them. The SGG scenario is bunk. None of their arguments actually say why it's key. They couldn't explain prospects. They said this might be necessary to realize SGGs, but that doesn't mean that other things wouldn't be necessary, i.e. we've also critiqued that. We've in fact turned it now. The K preempts artists rhetorical posturing has no warrant. We consider consequences. Epistemology informs them, right? It's wrong. Our argument isn't resource overuse, it's climate change. Coming to Washington obviously implicate this just as we got out in the past doesn't mean the mindset is bad. Regulated capitalism is not real because all capitalism relies on neoclassical economics. The all solves resilience. They need to explain how this is just until all.
Okay, are you good?
One step.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all, is it a floating thing?
We have argued competition comes
Yes
to
or
global
no?
ideology.
Like literally yes or no?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I'm confused what you think the alt necessarily takes out of. The alt is degrowth and the app has said growth is good. So like
Yes. We are saying that we can solve your inequality scenario by
okay, no. I'm like this is like still about the floating thing stuff. App said growth good. Next
Well,
said growth
we've
is
said
bad,
that the
but-
alternative could take the form of the plan. We're not saying that it definitely has to. We are saying that competition is at the level of the ideology of the 1AC. If we disagree with that ideology, then it produces competition. That is our framework argument. You can make alternative framework arguments, but that
do
is
we
what
get
we
to
laid
weigh
out.
the case against or just
Yes.
do we have to prove our reps first?
You get to weigh the case.
Okay.
I was gonna say you have to weigh the case.
What?
I wasn't like I misspoke. Yes, you get to weigh the case.
Okay, the Senate Armstrong card, how do we know you're not controlled by an able demon and like it's making us think Kant is true?
That is not the argument. Our argument is that the only thing that we know exists is our own minds because of our ability to think. We know because we can think.
Like,
I
do
know
you
I
not feel
exist
pain
because I
if you
can
touch
think.
a hot stove?
Well, I don't think that implicates this argument.
Why?
I feel like, yes, we might feel pain, but that does not
Status?
implicate this argument. Status of what?
Oh.
Of the critique, it is conditional.
Okay, AF's defending its worldview. What does the AF need to prove to like beat the K?
To beat the K, the AF has to win that its assumptions about the way the world works and the way the
Okay.
world should work is good.
Okay. If we went growth good, does that take out all of this like fun stuff?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Yes.
We've said growth is bad. If you win, growth is good.
Okay. The links to justifications are what constitutes a justification in your plan?
1AC scenarios. I mean, I feel like things the 1AC has said are
Wait,
good.
hold on. 1AC scenario. So why does that include reps?
Why does that include reps links? We've said we can critique the underlying assumptions of your scenarios.
Again, but you just said 1AC scenarios like themselves.
We can critique the logic behind your scenarios. We can critique, you have read a contention saying we should grow the economy forever to stop bad things from happening. We've said those bad things don't happen.
Okay,
and growing the economy is bad.
the Kant negates card. Why don't workers have like a right to like their own labor too? Like the right to be paid for their labor.
We didn't say they don't have a right to be paid for their labor. Our argument is that in entering a contract through agency, that they are able to enter that contract, which voids any sort of mere means link terms.
Okay, and so do you think contracts that way?
What do you mean? We think that.
Like, do you think violating contracts would constitute a violation of Kant?
I mean, probably, yeah.
Probably.
But we think that first and foremost, the intrinsic goodness or badness of the action overdetermine it.
Okay,
I.e.,
and
even if
only-
we sign a contract to do a living wage, that doesn't mean that the living wage itself is good. I can sign a contract to murder you, and that would be bad.
5 minutes started. Ecocentrism, like, do we get rid of capitalism?
We make policy decisions in ways, we evaluate policies based on their ideas of understanding Earth as a shared home. It's not, we abolish the government.
Actually, I wasn't listening to what you said. What did you say?
What? I said ecocentrism is a way of evaluating what policies we should endorse. It is a lens through which the government could make decisions.
Okay, like, I feel like simple yes or no question, does it get rid of capitalism? I mean, you've said growth causes.
It gets rid of growth.
Gets rid of growth. Okay, only impact is environmental stuff, yes?
We've read evidence that growth and desires to master things are inherently violent. That causes interpersonal conflicts as well.
Interpersonal, like global.
I.e., it explains things like conflict, which would turn app scenarios, because our argument is that the will to put humans above other things also applies to humans above other humans, which is an amendment.
Okay, 227. Oops. Let me just type this. And that was 227. Okay, I just sent it. The order is the framework stuff,
Okay.
then human rights, and then the secular stagnation.
Okay, so it's framework, and then IHL, like for stagnation, and then the NC, right?
Yeah. Does anyone need anything?
Wait.
I'm just gonna give the order. Framework, human rights, stagnation, and then the NC.
Oh, wait. Okay. I'm good.
Good. Everyone good? Okay, wait, just let me make sure.
Framework, case 1, case 2, NC.
Good. Most of this will be answered on the Kant NC below, but we'll answer all the 4 warrants for no intent for seizure. Their evidence is not about government institutions, which only our evidence is specific to culpability is wrong. You are only culpable for the consequences you can reasonably foresee. The auxiliary part is wrong. The warrant is action free, which is obviously disproven because the case proves that we've discovered an impact that would cause extinction and finish calculating before its occurrence motivation. Also, we've impacted because obligations are good and necessary to prevent extinction motivation. It's wrong. If I see a baby drowning, I have an ethical obligation to save them. And escapable is wrong because agencies also lie about their intent. They say watching somebody shower puking time is wrong because you go on to do worse things, if not stop necessarily enablers. We don't even read that, so it's irrelevant. They say that has no impact under cognitive job. It would violate freedom, which means that any risk that consequences are true means it must not weigh on the human rights of they drop the SDGs, in fact, no new anti-assaults. Everyone's sustainably warm because it allows for global cooperation to address things like cyber attacks, natural disasters, food shortages, etc., which solves unsustainably now the secular stagnation page. I'm going to answer some of the econ defense first because, of course, it's no warrants they've dropped in cross-sects that would cause things like terrorism, proliferation, transition wars, all of which are existential, and they have no defense. Any of this COVID and cringe are not done because it is uniquely likely now, and cooperation is uniquely breaking down. We do not need to win that we solve. We do not need to win. We solve global inequality, the global south, because we solve approximate root cause. Our evidence is 75% is caused by it, and yes, impact relief capture level globally is relevant because we solve institutions in the U.S., which is sufficient to safeguard against all access to risk. Now the K proper. Framework with the planned consequences against the criminal alternative ideological and epistemological decisions or infinite operational plan is one particular locus of offense necessary for detailed classification and given no justification links because they're infinite allows them to critique any ununderlined lines or floating subjects in one dogma and straight from my clash. Now do both these all can overcome these overcome the story both without the reps to criticize the plan disengage capitalism and every other instance extinction outweighs, which will be explained more on the Kant page, big alt utopian PL and floating picture over which we solve the same make all everything possible sacrificing fairness and clash. Now Kant orders use that time to argument irresponsibly just solves can give return now the environment impact is wrong 1 China India and global times 2 0 impact false is one of the situations moving answer will take enough time to adapt to mitigate stages that much higher and change the fact that solar array 1 meter can be managed yields increasing to text 3 degrowth is worse for particle burning the people every people find life without the refrigeration or what the Chinese degrowth is the family degrowth is disaster 4th only capitalism solves when it comes to the environment image has to be tight need to capture most use when investors more and capitalists soil food water and shortages new science and tech need to capture reversing innovation but power has to be reversing possibly fashion these mean substitutes how much are capitals and nature 5 nuclear war turns it and asks short-term stand for extinction 4 we're past the tipping point only textile substance transpiration reasonably only 2 degrees degrowth no causal there's no position no reason it will be market hard no reason there will be also growth solves conflict which was explained above and transition fails in like 21 to keep GDP 1 must be income 1 half below poverty lines this is will rebuild countries and even diversity defense 86 part of the countries the cyber returns for a decade and let new income stay definitely political suicide starts 80% of the population harmony 80% of the world's head on capitals for food delivered necessity captured to big population 80% of the world would immediately starve and results in transition wars now the Kant page dropped all affirms anti-evidence the UN is a quote legally binding treaty and says human rights obligations adopting living which is key no new anti-conflicts that way under Kant they're only verified thing which they said in cross Senate Armstrong is wrong 1 even if they're controlled by an evil doing pain is a biological phenomenon that's still got two links to them because how do they know that they're not also controlled by a demon it's not gaps wrong 1 usual souls we ought to take action to maximize pleasure 2 links to them just because we are rational does not mean we should be development is wrong 1 we need to be alive to reason which means to util as a prereq drops 2 endpoint is util because we use reason to maximize pleasure 3 fallacy of origin just because something is good does not mean we need to maximize it 4th usual souls our terms of the course gone hard is wrong necessary to ethics but insufficient if we win Kant classes usual does not matter anyways pressure is wrong because such precludes freedom now extinction always dropped every war and infinite full product process feelings of painful they dropped the therapist really agree with the class of policy suffered bad they dropped the Nagel rights and pleasure pain are intrinsically viable and someone who never did anything was to avoid pain which answers everything else and independently no intent for the distinction for states and orders cannot be the responsibility because they must consider the global perspective and have no interest pursuits in relation to autonomous life that's inoculated indifferently dropped using to it is itself inadequate and if we foresee a consequence of harms it becomes sort of deliberation process also dropped HCI government procedure they don't have intentions are constantly doing what's freedom which takes out every warrant for why consequences fails because they're purely denied.
Okay, 5 minutes. I'll start right now. Theory was the all theory conditionality. That was it, right? order is it's just gonna be NC, AC, and then it's gonna be the contentions, AF contentions, and then the I want to say on the AF contentions will be conditionality and the alt theory.
Wait, I'm sorry. Wait, so NC and then the framework page?
It's Kant, the 1AC framework page, and then it's going to be the AF IHL and the AF econ.
And then you said condo is at the bottom?
Yes, I did. Okay.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Okay. Kant, util, and then after util is the AF IHL scenario thing, and then the AF other one, the econ thing. Okay. Is anybody not ready? Okay. Our offense outweighs it was conceded Ripstein says property rights are necessary precondition for the realization of all ends, i.e. in order to have external freedom, we presuppose we have the means to pursue those ends, which means property rights violations are intrinsically wrong. Armentano says a living wage is intrinsically immoral because employers have a right to use their legally acquired property, aka money, as they see fit, forcing them to pay a living wage violates their external freedom because it takes their money away, which impedes the ability to pursue ends by the intrinsic action of requiring a living wage to begin with, which is a libertarianism argument that they have not grappled with. We have justified that property rights must come first. They're a necessary precondition for all ends. They say that we drop the Kant affirms, obviously wrong. Contracts are only as right as the underlying maxims. It's not Kant affirms offense because it wasn't contextualized. Ethics are based on the maximum itself, which is courts guard the maximum of living wage is inherently wrong. This we conceded the contracts outweigh. This is obviously wrong. If I signed a contract to kill somebody, that would still be wrong because the maxim that I have agreed to do is wrong in that it would violate others' agency, so therefore it would not be right. They say Synod Armstrong is wrong because we know it, but Synod Armstrong is correct. They drop the deontic logic. If you're 1% certain about this, you should err negative because our meta-ethic is the only one you can be certain of because you only know that you have the ability to think. You can never be fully certain that the external world exists. You only know that you might be sure of it, but that means that it cannot be the threshold for justified belief, which means ethics must be derived from something absent. They drop the practical reason is the only way to resolve this because we only know that we exist. The is-ought arguments, they say that because we feel pleasure, we ought to take it, but just because we think we can feel pleasure or pain or whatnot does not disprove our argument that we can never be certain. Or wait, that was above the is-ought argument. They misunderstand our argument. Our argument is experience only tells us what humans feel and what humans do value, not what humans ought to value, which means transcendental agency comes first, which is a conceded warrant. Our argument is not reason good, but rather an understanding we have reason that generates others ought not impede on it through transcendental reasons. Death cannot outweigh conceded on case. The death has no impact under Kant because ethics is what we should do while we are alive, which means that it is not a question of any of that. It is a consequential reason, which means they must win empiricism and consequentialism first, and they must win culpability. They say that we use reason to determine good. We use reason to determine good just proves our offense. It proves that util collapses Kant, not the other way around. They say util solves desires. Intrinsic desires is the fallacy of origin dropped on Nagel. They say we dropped Nagel, but we did coherent line by line. They dropped involuntary reactions do not prove morality, i.e. difference between me bumping into you and me shoving you. They say course guard proves Kant collapses util. Wrong. Dropped our warrants for action theory, i.e. there is a difference between me handing you a sandwich and having a muscle spasm to do it. Only the intention behind the action makes it morally relevant consideration. They say death precludes, but that was answered above. They say extinction outweighs, and our authors agree in that we dropped Nagel, but extinction does not outweigh. We did not drop Nagel, and they drop death has no impact. And to have forced that distinction, we will answer on the AC. They say Enoch that we dropped it. We did not answer it. They dropped our framing issue that the judge is the policymaker. This is a question of if the judge, as the United States in this round, is culpable for it, which means that the judge does have intentions. They also dropped that even we cannot be sure why the judge is doing it, we know that the judge, in doing a living wage, is inherently coercive because of the maxim itself. You know that they consider our offense, which means it's 100%. If there is a risk, Kant is true. It is infinite because a violation 1 due to the principle of universality means it is infinite violation of all freedom of all agents. They must answer the contention or they lose, and they did not do that, which means that you should sign your ballot negative. Now, go to util. First, intent force distinction. They dropped our framing issue on evaluating the intent force distinction. They said the warrant for culpability is action theory. Dropped the principle of intervening action means we are not culpable for choosing to negate to protect property rights. We can agree that we are culpable for our direct actions, i.e. if I shove you, I am the only actor that is acting. The example that Gareth gives is Martin Luther King knew that there might be riots as a result of the civil rights movement, but it is not his fault because there was bad actors who chose to act poorly. This was dropped. Do not allow nutria or spin to this, i.e. it does not prove that the ought statement is true because there might be bad conflicts as a result, because every war scenario that they have and every conflict scenario that is extended in the 1 era and 2 era will be based on the actions of other things, not the intrinsic result of the action. It will be because of other actors, which means that you as the judge have the ethical imperative to negate to preserve property rights. They say that the obligations is had. They say we can stop it because they've impact turned the obligations is had. They say that you cannot impact turn the obligations is had without answering the implication of the implications. We would never be able to act ethically. There would always be an additional obligation, which is just not answered. The impact turn has no warrant. They say it's necessary to prevent extinction, but assumes that they access extinction in the first place. We are not going for motivation or escapability. Peeping Tom, they didn't justify anything else. They dropped that death has no impact under Kant, which means your debate should be your evaluation calculus should be fairly simple to evaluate. Go to IHL. They dropped our critique of IHL, that it is racist decision rule, and IHL is ineffective, bad because it's used for colonialism. That is a reason to negate under UTIL because it's used to exploit countries in the global south as a consequence of strengthening rights leadership, i.e. they did not kick the advantage because we did not read defense to their internal link. You know that the plan aligns with IHL. You know this is a conceded dissad to the case that was read. It was a card that was a minute long, that the extension should be sufficient. You know that it's used to justify colonialism, which is obviously an impact under UTIL, and means that under epistemic modesty, we are winning offense under both. They do not have offense under Kant because the contractual stuff above. Now, go to the other advantage. We will concede their framework interpretation. We're not going for it. Big alt is a reason to drop the argument, not the team. Conditionality, we will justify that it's good. Where'd that go? Okay. My computer froze, but whatever. Okay. Conditionality is good. The status quo is always a logical option. Their model evolves to nonsense. The judge, of course, is usually two bad options when doing nothing is better. And Rue is playing good as a one condition in favor of counterplan bad. Logic outweighs because it's the basis on which we make arguments. Their interim curve response negative flexibility topics are larger than ever. This one lacks good disadvantages because of the fact that every app is intensified to suspect there's no limiting words in the resolution, which means that we need conditional options in order because they will always know their apps better. We will use reasonability. Substance outweighs my new theory evaluations. This debate is not good in a vacuum, but because of argumentative comparison skew is inevitable from other positions. Their conditionality offense, you should not vote on it because it's a moral hazard that it forces us to spend too long on it. They say skews time skew is inevitable. That speech times argument of responsibility. We have said that negative flexibility outweighs because it's the internal with the negative engagement. They did not say disposal solves, but if it did, it was not warranted. Now go to the post-in evidence. Extend the post-in evidence. They said that we dropped in cross-sex co-live transmission wars, etc. But they dropped that people will only go to war if there is economic incentive, i.e., if there is a looming risk of an imminent recession, which we have conceded is going to happen. Then you know that there is not. You know that countries will only go to war if they're optimists, which means it answers all their scenarios. They can't go for this. They dropped our offense. COVID, they don't have a reason to uniquely thumbs. They drop, they can't solve because it does not go to people that are not working, which means they can't solve their elite capture impact. SGGs, they dropped just because the plan is necessary does not mean the plan is sufficient. That was on case exempted that they did not answer. We are not culpable for omitting to do the F.
I got 225, but let me check just to make sure. Oh, sorry, 227.
You guys need a card doc.
Okay, order is, I flowed like the no intent foresight distinction on the page at the bottom, so that's just where it's gonna be. But it's gonna be the second advantage, and then the first advantage, and then the NC. Does anyone do that again? Yes?
When you go to the first advantage, it's gonna be framework.
No, it's just answering the dropped critique of international.
Alright, so
Everyone good? Any risk of our offense is sufficient that way when they drop the death precludes. Death is the worst form of restriction on freedom, starting from the 1AC, which means that any risk that consequences are possible means it outweighs, developing outweighs. Our evidence does say living which is key, and it says the quote, most important condition for achieving the attributes races, poverty, insufficient while increasing health growth, education, innovation, global partnerships, and more. They drop that U.S. leadership spurs global fall on souls, cascading towards from migration, separate disasters, the environmental collapse and more, which is assertive evidence independently. Segregation does that way. They drop multiple words for independent like causing conflict, which means the president is wrong. 1, drop transition wars. 2, drop that lines of collapse, so it causes existential proliferation and terror because allies will feel the need to proliferate. 3, the Harvey evidence says that it would cause 80% of the population to starve, which is necessarily a reason for why COVID is not that, because they dropped that cooperation is uniquely breaking down now. They've also dropped everyone for extinction that waste it is infinite. The full part of the process explains the painful deaths, and they dropped that their offense only matters, and the reason why freedom violence is bad is because it causes suffering, which necessarily means that their offense collapses to ours, and it means that and they drop the death precludes future value and all equitable determination, which means that any reason for offense is sufficient that way. Now the human rights advantage, we do not drop the critique of international humanitarian law. We conceded all causes, which means the plan is not solved. It only said that they found inequality, but they dropped distinction that ways, and that only the consequences of the claim matter, which means that this is all irrelevant. Now I think it's the NC. Now they say the contract to kill somebody wrong. We will explicitly concede this proves our usual argument because it proves that death outweighs any sort of form of promise breaking. And they say you only know you have the ability to think. You do know that plain and pressure weighs, and the Eagle card says that it is intrinsic to human nature and the reasons for actions in and of themselves, which will be more explained more below. Now they say they dropped that we only know that we exist because of something. That is wrong. They dropped that you would move your hand if you touched a hospital, even if it involuntary, and someone that was never able to do anything would still have avoidance to pain and pleasure, which means it does that way. They say just because we think we can feel pleasure doesn't mean we actually do. They drop that they do not know whether or not they are also being controlled by an evil demon as well. How do you know you're actually even thinking or even thinking even as, which means that it ultimately classes no is not gap 1. Drop links to them because just because we're rational is not being true. They drop usual solves. This is not an argument for why Kant necessarily why U2 necessarily collapses the Kant, but it says that we use our reasoning to maximize pleasure, which means that it does that way. Now they say we drop no impact under Kant. They drop death turns Kant. Listen, they drop our offense necessarily outweighs theirs because death is the ultimate restriction on freedom, which means that any risk of consequences is sufficient that way. Now they say usual classes. The point is that we're using reasoning to maximize pleasure, which is explained above. No fallacy of origin, and they drop so many words for why we do not need to win any of their offense. 1, they drop that we need to be allowed to reason in the first place, which necessarily precludes all of their offense. Drops 2, and the point is util, which was explained above. 3, the fallacy of origin is our argument. They drop that just because the reasoning is good does not mean we should maximize it. 4, they drop that util solves ours are intrinsic and cannot be explained further. Legal evidence is the for your food, even if you cannot objectively explain why it tastes the best. They say involuntary reactions don't prove anything. Pushing and shoving have the same consequences, which means it's irrelevant. Intention relevant was above. Now we do not drop the judge as a policymaker. It means that you should decide which firm to vote for, and for offense that weighs there or death that weighs, then it's wrong. Now they say no intent for distinction. They've dropped that only our evidence is specific to government actions and cannot admit their responsibility. So they must consider the global person to have no interest relation to autonomous. So I dropped that culpability is wrong because you're only culpable for the consequences you can reasonably foresee, and that action freezing is wrong because obligations are good and necessary to solve extinction. That the case is proved because we found an external claim that would cause extinction before it, and our attempts do not cause other actions because drop US is the critical internal link.
No.
There aren't really that many F cards, but do you want them?
card doc is in. Get a notepad up, please.
Yeah. All right. So congratulations to both teams for making it to the finals of the Loyola Invitational. The decision is a 2-1 with a negative from Peninsula.
Okay, I sat, so I can go first. I think death is the biggest violation of freedom. If people are dead, they can't set and foresee ends. The negative response to this is that Kant doesn't care about death because ethics governs how we behave when we were alive. This argument doesn't really make any sense to me. The app's argument is that, while we are alive, we have an obligation to prevent death from happening to other people, because if we die, then we can't set and pursue ends. So I think it's just not the case that, Kant wouldn't think that death is bad. The reason Kant would give for why death is bad is, precisely the reason that the affirmative gives, is that it, inhibits our ability to set and pursue ends. So Kant, obviously wouldn't say that death is bad because it forecloses the ability to experience future pleasure, or because, the process of death is painful. Those aren't the, justifications he would give. But Kant, definitely thinks that death is bad, and I think the affirmative has correctly identified why that's the case. Given that I think that death is bad, I think that the affirmative has I think that the affirmative has a pretty significant link term to the NC. I think that the affirmative is winning that degrowth causes conflict because of alliance collapses, which I think link turns the internal link turns the argument that the negative is going for about how optimism is what motivates conflict. I think maybe the other argument that the neg has that would maybe answer the app's argument that preventing death is important under the negative framework is no intent foresight distinction. But the app has said that if we foresee a consequence, that it becomes part of our moral deliberation and we become responsible for it. The 2NR response is an example about MLK foreseeing riots in response to civil rights protests, but not himself being responsible for them. But I think the app's argument disputes the intuition that this example relies on, and would suggest, perhaps counterintuitively, that MLK, would have been responsible, for rioting in that situation. So that's my argument. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them after the other judges give their arguments.
I can go next. I voted negative. A living wage violates the right of employers to keep their property, which is infinitely bad under the NAICS property rights framework. I think the 2 years just spending too much time starting things are dropped without fulfilling the wage conditions that they have. The biggest thing I sort of thought, or the reason why I voted negative, is because the app isn't really answering this empiricism false argument. But I'll go through the 2 arguments anyways. The death outweighs stuff because we contract to kill someone is wrong. Don't think this is the case since it's new and it's possible for death to be bad under Kant for independent reasons. Under the I do think that ethics is a question of what we should do when we're alive. This was in the 1 NC, and even though the 1 AR had a separate independent reason for death being bad, I don't think they answered this one about the constitutive purpose of ethics. The sorts of arguments that we know that pain and pleasure are bad, you would move your hand if it's on a hot stove. I don't think they really answer this external world argument. Feeling pleasure doesn't mean we ought to adhere to it to come up with moral conclusions. The is-ought fallacy is just kind of asserted by the affirmative that we ought to pursue pleasure because we feel it. Didn't answer the fact that involuntary reactions don't prove something morally bad. So that means that the only thing we know is what we can think, which means that experience is otherwise unreliable source of ethics, which establishes empiricism is unreliable, and that's the reason why we can err negative there. I think that on the intent foresight distinction stuff, the judge as a policymaker means I'm not responsible for what other people would do in response to the plan. The app response to this in the TUIR is that if our offense outweighs that's wrong. I don't think that the app is necessarily at a very high risk, and I don't think that their offense is intrinsic to a living wage being good or bad, but rather how other people would respond, i.e. alliances, etc. I don't think I have a one-or answer to the opposing evidence, and the TUIR is just kind of listing out scenarios that they think they're wrong, which I think is your answer.
Yeah, I pretty much voted the exact same way. I thought the -1 empirical uncertainty, and that we can't like determine like how people should act or move. The argument that Sterling might be controlled by a demon too, I thought didn't have much implication or warrant for why that proves empiricism is good or why I should be certain about empiricism. But I think that argument probably still falls under the negative maxim that it is impossible to foresee the extent of consequences. I think the death arguments about death mattering, the producing future value are like potentially where I could vote F. I don't have a warrant on how it does that and how it matters the argument, or how it answers the argument that their explanation only accounts for what we do, but for do or feel, but you cannot derive morality from that action. The other part is the Nagel answer, the 1AR and the 2AR SH drop with the NC answer at the top of the is-off fallacy that implicates like bodily responses morally irrelevant because they do not derive from our own agency, which implicates the death argument. The other argument that I come close to putting on is like death is what allows us to form ethics and ultimately strips our freedom. I end up leaning culpability arguments and stuff from above. I think that the Martin Luther King piece of evidence isn't like amazing, but it's not really answered. I think I can vote F if I have more work particularly done on why ethics, starting with death as consequences are important and what is the moral reason behind it. But I generally agree with like all of the last decision that I think a lot of arguments are pointed out as drop, but warrants were answered, and generally think they're winning questions of like empirical uncertainty. So I negate because the app violates the right to property.
What exactly do you mean by you weren't sure what the warrant was for like exact ways or like options? Because I feel like there were like two separate arguments. Like one, like life is a prerequisite reason, and then two, death is the ultimate restriction on freedom. So, like.
I'm not sure how life being a prerequisite reason answers that reason only matters insofar as what we think. So we do not know if we are like truly living because.
How do you know you're thinking? Like.
How do you what?
How do you know you're thinking?
Well, I don't.
Well, wait, hold on, what?
Wait, what's the question? Sorry.
This might be my misunderstanding of like just how Kant works, but what if, because, wait, if you don't know you're thinking, doesn't the evil demon thing link to Kant?
I would say we do know we're thinking.
What?
I would say we do know that we're thinking.
Why?
Like, that's by asserting anything or just like trying to conceive of the idea that we're thinking of something. That means that somehow conditions have to exist for me to
Like,
be able to
if
come
you
up with
touch a hot stove, do you not know you're in pain? Like,
Yeah.
what's the distinction?
I think the negative argument is that it's unverifiable that like it came from touching a hot stove. Like if I was
So
writing
how
it
do
down
you
and you're
how do
just
you
like
verify your thinking?
because that's something that doesn't really rely on anything external to my own mind and the thoughts that my mind can generate.
Okay, what do you think is the best way to answer this in the future?
I mean, it applies to the NC's contention as well, right? So external world skepticism is like a problem for, I mean, it's exactly that. It's skepticism about the external world. It's not a reason why Kantianism is true. Like, how do we know that like property is important to set and pursue ends? It's because we need things in order to like, you know, stay alive and have what it requires to do other things that matter for us. So that's not a consequentialist explanation of why property matters, because you're not saying property is important because I need to be able to own things to avoid like suffering. Your argument is I need to be able to own things so I can set and pursue other ends. But that still, right, requires like an analysis of the external world. We know it's the case that property helps us do other things that we decide are valuable because we, you know, observe that, you know, we need to own things in order to be able to, you know, do other things that are important to us.
Guys, really quick, I'm going to interrupt, but I don't want to take away from your chance to ask questions. So just so you guys know, you're probably like, who's this guy interrupting? So my name is James Zucker. I'm the head coach for Loyola High School. And I just want to finish things up because we've got to get the round robin going. But if you guys have any questions, we're not using this room for the round robin. So judges and competitors, you're welcome to stay after and ask more questions. That's really not a problem. I just wanted to wrap things up really quick by saying a few things. Number one, thank you so much for coming out, guys. This is like our 12th annual doing this. The head coach